The world is changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. Much that once was is lost, for none now live who remember it.
If you're watching this, you are already familiar with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, and maybe to a lesser extent his Hobbit trilogy. And you may just be familiar with some Mandela effects associated with Lord of the Rings. I've already shown you one. It's not Lord of the Rings, it's the Lord of the Rings. Is that what you remember? That "the" sure does look out of place. Of course, that's straight from the books, but for this video, we're going to be strictly focusing on Peter Jackson's Middle-earth. And we're going to start with The Fellowship of the Ring. Now, when I was setting up the Mandela Effect database, there are only a few entries for each of these films. But when I rewatched the trilogy earlier this year, I noticed quite a few scenes did not match my recollection. And we're going to start with the opening prologue. Which of these is the correct line recited by Galadriel? Is it, "It was in this moment, when all hope had faded, that Isildur, son of the king, took up his father's sword and used the broken blade to cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand"? Or is it, "It was in this moment, when all hope had faded, that Isildur, son of the king, took up his father's sword and struck at the Dark Lord"?
It was in this moment, when all hope had faded, that Isildur, son of the king, took up his father's sword. Sauron, the enemy of the free peoples of Middle-earth, was defeated.
Alright, it was a trick question. It was neither of them. The narration just cuts out over the scene. And now it plays without voiceover. I remember Galadriel saying that he used the broken blade to cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand. So which line do you remember? Or do you remember it cutting off like it plays now? I could only find one instance of residue for each of these lines, one from a wiki and another from the back of a toy box. But to me, that's enough indication that Galadriel is now cut off from what she used to say. Alright, let's take a look at another line from the prologue. Does Galadriel say, "Something happened then the ring did not expect"? Or does she say, "Something happened then the ring did not intend"?
But something happened then the ring did not intend. It was picked up by the most unlikely creature imaginable.
What's this?
A hobbit, Bilbo Baggins of the Shire.
Well, she now says something happened the ring did not intend. And that's not what I remember. As you can see from these bits of residue, I'm not the only one that remembers something happened then the ring did not expect. It's featured in these Reddit posts, these comments, this article. Yes, even in some search results from Google, they still show something happened then the ring did not expect. But it gets even a little weirder. When I first updated the database to show this new Mandela effect, it was something happened then that the ring did not intend. And somewhere in the last few months, the "that" has disappeared. We're gonna move on to the scene where Gandalf escapes from Saruman's clutches. Which line do you remember? Is it, "There is only one Lord of the Rings, and he does not share power"? Or is it, "There is only one Lord of the Ring, only one who can bend it to his will, and he does not share power"?
friendship of Saruman is not lightly thrown aside. One ill turn deserves another. It is over. Embrace the power of the ring, or embrace your own destruction. There is only one Lord of the Ring. Only one who can bend it to his will. And he does not share power.
Yes, the line has been expanded and rings has become singular to ring. At least, that's what it is to me. Maybe you remember something different. But yes, I found some residue to back up my own recollections here. And I also found a slightly different version of the line that some people remember. There's only one Lord of the Rings. Only one. And he does not share power. My Gollum impression is a lot better than my Gandalf impression. But you don't want to hear that, do you? I was able to find quite a bit of residue for each version of this line throughout the internet. It was listed in comments, it was posted on a list of Lord of the Ring quotes, it was even quoted in some major articles. But that's not the line, at least not anymore. Our next line is also from Gandalf. When he's attacked by the Balrog and pulled off the bridge in Khazad-dûm, what does he say? Does he say, "Fly, you fools?" Or does he say, "Run, you fools"?
You shall not pass! Fools.
Back when I was watching this film in the early 2000s, I could never quite make out what he was saying. But after watching it enough times, I started to hear him say, "Fly, you fools." But that's not what everyone was hearing. Some heard, "Run, you fools." And yes, there's a bit of residue for that, but he still says, "Fly, you fools." That hasn't changed for me, at least. Our next quote change comes from an interaction between Frodo Baggins and Galadriel. Which does Frodo say? Does he say, "If you ask it of me, I will give you the One Ring"? Or does he say, "If you ask it of me, I will give you the ring"?
The fellowship is breaking. It has already begun. He will try to take the ring. You know of whom I speak. One by one, it will destroy them all. If you ask it of me, I will give you the One Ring. You offer it to me freely.
Yep, he says One Ring. That's not what it used to be for me. It was always just, "I will give you the ring." And here's some residue to back up that memory. Now, let's get to the biggest change in the film for me. When the Uruk-hai kills Boromir at the end of the film, does he use a crossbow or does he use a bow and arrow? Well, it's a bow and arrow now, but it certainly wasn't when I watched these films in the 2000s, I can tell you that. I mean, look at this guy's stance as he's using a bow and arrow. It's completely wrong. but substitute a crossbow in there. Wouldn't that seem more accurate? Each time I watched Fellowship of the Ring when I was younger, I was always surprised by the crossbow in the film. And now it's gone. But you don't even have to just take my word for it. There's some residue of this scene online. And yes, there are still Uruk-hais wielding crossbows in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, just not in Fellowship. Here's a figurine listed on eBay of a crossbow Uruk-hai. The listing has it as a Fellowship crossbow Uruk-hai, but the figure itself is from Return of the King. And just take a look at this residue. If Boromir had stayed and Faramir had gone, I think that Boromir still would have lived and Faramir would have died by the crossbow of the Uruk-hai. And in this post, on the extra broad screen accompanied by Dolby surround sound, the orcs had been killing Boromir for almost 10 minutes already. They looked really committed. 3 crossbow bolts had already pierced the air of the Steward of Gondor. In this post on the One Ring, he looked up to the cruel features of the orc captain as he drew his crossbow. This is it, farewell world. From this article online, it's what makes me feel so good when I watch it, even when Boromir's being decimated by crossbow bolts. I know I wasn't imagining the scene because I'd seen it enough, but it's good that some residue of it remains. So I'm very curious to hear, which version of the scene do you remember? Now it's time to take a look at the Mandela Effects in The Two Towers. In one of the first scenes of the film, does Aragorn say, "Legolas, what do your elven eyes see?" Or does he say, "Legolas, what do your elf eyes see?"
Rohan, home of the Horse Lords. There's something strange at work here. Some evil gives speed to these creatures, sets its will against us. Legolas, what do your elf eyes see?
Yes, Aragorn says elf eyes, but that's not what I remember. And as you can see in this residue from some search results and in a few posts online, I'm not the only one who remembers Aragorn saying elven eyes. Now we've got another Gandalf quote. Let's see. Does he say, "Until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside"? Or does he say, "Until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountain"?
You fell.
Through fire and water. From the lowest dungeon to the highest peak, I fought him, the Balrog of Morgoth. Until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside.
It is admittedly a small change, but I remember him ending it with mountain. And this was a difficult one to find any residue for, but I did find this one piece. Shortly after that line, Gandalf says one of these. Gandalf, yes, that was what they used to call me. Or is it Gandalf, yes, that is what they called me.
Gandalf.
Gandalf? Yes. That was what they used to call me. Gandalf the Grey. That was my name. Gandalf. I am Gandalf the White. And I come back to you now. At the turn of the tide.
Another one that doesn't match my memory, and with a bit of residue to corroborate that as well. And then there's another one with Gandalf. This one when he's confronting Theoden. Does Gandalf say, "I release you"? Or does he say, "I release you" from the spell?
Theoden! Theoden, son of Thengir. Too long have you sat in the shadows. I would stay still if I were you. Hearken to me. I release you from the spell.
From the spell just seems like an unnecessary addition, but that's what it is now. And it's not an easy one to find residue for either, but I did manage to find a couple things. Here's a line from Treebeard that was actually reported as a Mandela effect long before I created the database. Which is the right line? Is it, "Nobody cares for the woods anymore," or is it, "No one cares for the trees anymore"?
Treebeard, some call me.
And whose side are you on?
Side. I am on nobody's side, because nobody is on my side, little orc. Nobody cares for the woods anymore.
We're not orcs!
This is one of those instances where I just have to trust what was reported, because for once, I'm not sure which was the original line, and I really wasn't able to find any residue of what's purported to be the old line. Alright, it's time to move on to the last film in the trilogy, The Return of the King. In a scene between Pippin and Gandalf, does Gandalf say, "There was never much hope, only a fool's hope"? Or does he say, "There never was much hope, just a fool's hope"?
It's so quiet.
It's the deep breaths before the plunge.
I don't want to be in a battle. But waiting on the edge of one I can't escape is even worse. Is there any hope, Gandalf?
There never was much hope. Just a fool's hope.
It's not what I remember, and you can see that even this YouTube video of the scene is titled with the old version of the line, "Only a fool's hope." There's plenty of residue for the old version of the line in Google's search results. Even Google's AI says that quote is from The Lord of the Rings. Well, not the movies, not anymore. There's another interaction between Gandalf and Pippin that's slightly changed for me. Which version of this line do you remember? Does Gandalf say, "Guardian of the Citadel indeed"? Or does he say, "Guard of the Citadel indeed"?
Go back to the Citadel!
They called us out to fight.
This is no place for a hobbit! Guard of the Citadel indeed. Now back, up the hill, quickly. Quick!
Well, Pippin may be guard of the Citadel now, but for me, he used to be Guardian of the Citadel, indeed. And yes, there is still some residue of him being a guardian, not just a guard. Alright, this next one is probably the biggest change in The Return of the King. At least it is for me. When Elrond says, "I give hope to men," and Aragorn replies, "I keep none for myself," is the exchange in English or is it in Elvish?
Sauron will not have forgotten the sword of
man who can wield the power of this sword can summon to him an army more deadly than any that walks this earth. Put aside the ranger. Become who you are born to be. Take the dim old road. Manani Estelle Dain.
Uhebi. Estelanim.
That's right, it's in Elvish, at least it is now. I always considered this such a memorable line from the film, but I don't think I would have remembered it if it was originally in Elvish. And the nature of this change makes it incredibly difficult to find residue for. So I have to ask you, which version of this scene do you remember? An English version or an Elvish one? Alright, our last Mandela effect from the Lord of the Rings trilogy is a small one from the end of the film. After they've saved Gondor and they're debating their next course of action, does Aragorn say, "Not for ourselves, but we can give Frodo his chance if we keep Sauron's eye fixed upon us"? Or does he say, "Not for ourselves, but we can give Frodo a chance if we keep Sauron's eye fixed upon us"?
Frodo has passed beyond my sight. The darkness is deepening.
If Sauron had the ring, we would know it.
It's only a matter of time. You suffered a defeat, yes, but behind the walls of Mordor, our enemy is regrouping.
Let him stay there. Let him rot! Why should we care?
Because 10,000 orcs now stand between Frodo and Mount Doom. I've sent him to his death.
No. There's still hope for Frodo. He needs time and safe passage across the plains of Gorgoroth. We can give him that.
How?
Draw out Sauron's armies. Empty his lands. Then we gather our full strength and march on the Black Gate.
We cannot achieve victory through strength of arms.
Not for ourselves. But we can give Frodo his chance if we keep Sauron's eye fixed upon us. Keep him blind to all else that moves. A diversion.
Certainty of death? Small chance of success? What are we waiting for?
It's an admittedly small change, but he says give Frodo his chance instead of give Frodo a chance. And yes, there is residue of this old version of the line, as you can see here. Alright, it's time to move on to the more recent and less well-regarded Middle-earth trilogy from Peter Jackson. That is the Hobbit trilogy. In the first film, An Unexpected Journey, when the dwarves are in Bilbo Baggins' home, which lyric do they sing? Is it "to find our long-forgotten home"? Or is it "to find our long-forgotten gold"?
misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to find our long forgotten gold.
Yes, right now it's gold, but I promise you, it used to be home. And you can see from all of these bits of residue I've gathered that I'm not the only one who remembers it as home. The change also seems to contradict the whole reason for the dwarves' quest. Aren't they going to Erebor to reclaim their homeland and not to reclaim their forgotten gold? It just casts the dwarves in a poor light, and I prefer the original, at least what was the original version for me. Our next Mandela effect is from the scene where Elrond is reading Thorin's map. What does Elrond say? Does he say, "There are some who would not deem it wise"? Or does he say, "There are some who would not think it wise"?
Summer is passing. Durin's Day will soon be upon us.
We still have time.
Time for what?
To find the entrance. We have to be standing in exactly the right spot at exactly the right time. Then, and only then, can the door be opened.
So this is your purpose? To enter the mountain?
What of it?
There are some who would not deem it wise.
What do you mean?
You are not the only guardian to stand watch over Middle-earth.
Yes, he now says deem, though this line was prominently featured in the trailers and commercials, and I remember him saying think it wise. Though I only managed to find a small bit of residue for that version of the line. That's it for the first film, so now let's move on to the second, The Desolation of Smaug. When Thorin confronts Thranduil, does the elf have a scar, or does he not have a scar?
You lack all honor! I have seen how you treat your friends. We came to you once, starving, homeless, seeking your help. But you turned your back. You turned away from the suffering of my people and the inferno that destroyed us. Rid am Rad ol Sul!
Do not talk to me of dragon fire. I know its wrath and ruin. I have faced the great serpents of the north.
Yes, he now shows off a prominent scar on his face. And as the scene comes to an end, does Thranduil say, 100 years is a blink of an eye for an elf. I'm patient, I can wait. Or does he say, 100 years is a mere blink in the life of an elf. I'm patient, I can wait.
I warned your grandfather of what his greed would summon, but he would not listen. You are just like him.
Stay here if you will, and rot. 100 years is a mere blink in the life of an elf. I'm patient. I can wait.
That's right, it's no longer a blink of an eye. Though, as you can see in this bit of residue I found, some remember it that way, and I'm one of them. We have come to the end of our journey of Middle-earth Mandela Effects. How many of them applied to you? Did you notice that there's a lot more in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy than there is in the Hobbit trilogy? I found none in the Battle of the Five Armies, which is the third Hobbit film. But why is so much in the original Lord of the Rings changed? Is it because it's further into the past? Because we've shifted more timelines since then? Did Peter Jackson just have more options, more choices during the creation of those films? Is it because more people watched them and more people continue to watch them? Is it because they each hold a prominent place in our culture? Remember, Return of the King even won the Oscar for Best Picture. You know how The Ring wants to be found? Well, it's always been my belief that the Mandela Effect wants to be found. The Mandela Effect wants you to notice it. The Earth wants you to notice it. It wants you to wake up to what's going on. And given that a lot more people are watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy over the Hobbit trilogy, it would make sense that if the Mandela Effect wants to be found, it's going to show up in something that a lot of people are watching. And though I personally enjoy the Hobbit films, I know a lot of people do not. And if you haven't watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy recently, I suggest you go ahead and give it a rewatch. Tell me what's changed for you. Tell me if you remember as I do. And until next time, this has been the curator of the Mandela Effect database. I'll see you around the multiverse.
Now, the problem with crossbows in reality, in real war, but also on film, is that they slow the action of battle down so much, because once you've fired them, you have to stop, drop them to the ground, and windlass the string back into the firing mechanism. So what we developed here was a pump-action crossbow, so that the soldier could rapidly load their bolt into the mechanism as they marched into war.
The crossbows that the Uruk army has are actually straight out of a 15th century German artillery book. This pump-action crossbow is in this manual, and all that I did was turn it into something that was, from a design point of view, appropriate for the Uruk-hai.